Alright folks, settle down. Scotty McG here again. Another existential crisis brought to you by the ever-loving state of the world. But hey, at least we've got video games, right? Chance to virtually escape this shambles. Speaking of shambles, today we're diving headfirst into the glorious cluster fudge that is Call of Duty news. Remember back in the day when these games were about, actual war? Bunch of lads scrapping it out in the trenches, bonding over bad tea and questionable life choices? Now it's all microtransactions to make a hedge fund manager blush. Anyway, smash that like button harder than a care home bingo brawl, subscribe for more rants and ramblings, and let's dissect the latest Call of Duty news together. Because frankly, if we don't laugh, we'll cry. Seems a right kerfuffle kicked off over in the US of A. Families of the victims of that horrific school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, are pointing the finger at, amongst others, the makers of Call of Duty. You know, the shooty bang bang game everyone's nana knows about. Apparently these folks reckon Call of Duty is to blame for the whole damn tragedy. Now the lawyers are circling like vultures over a free buffet, and it's all getting a bit messy. We've got lawsuits flying left, right and centre, finger pointing, reaching Olympic heights. More legal jargon than a tax return form. But before we jump to conclusions and start blaming pixels for real-world violence, let's take a step back and have a good old chinwag, shall we? So buckle up, buttercup, because we're wading into the murky waters of precedent, liability, and whether or not blasting away at virtual baddies can really turn someone into a real-life shooter. Now there's a bunch of studios out there that say playing shooty bang bang games can make you more aggressive. Apparently all that blasting away at virtual foes gets you in a caveman all riled up. Some blokes reckon these games make you see other people as less human, which isn't exactly the recipe for world peace, is it? Sounds right dodgy, doesn't it? But hold your horses. There's other research that says these games are just a way to let off steam, a bit like a virtual punchbag. They reckon all that shooting and explosion is a harmless way to vent your frustration, stopping you from bottling it all up inside and exploding in real life. Makes sense, doesn't it? Like a good old-fashioned pub brawl, but without the sticky floors and dodgy kebabs. So what are we to believe? Is it Call of Duty turning our kids into bloodthirsty maniacs, or is it just a harmless bit of digital target practice? Well, the truth is always probably somewhere in the middle. Here's the thing. Most people who play violent video games aren't out there committing atrocities. In fact, the vast majority are just normal folks looking for a bit of escapism. But, and it's a big but, for some folks, maybe those who are already troubled or prone to violence, these games might act as a bit of a trigger. It could be a way to rehearse violent acts or desensitize them to violence altogether. So the science is inconclusive. It's not a simple case of violent games equals violent people. There's a whole bunch of other factors at play, like a person's upbringing, mental state, and access to actual weapons, which seem to be a bit more readily available in some parts of the world than others. America. So far, the blame game has been focused on Call of Duty, but is it really the biggest target here? Let's be honest, those virtual guns don't pull the trigger in real life, do they? Now, I'm not one for conspiracy theories, but it feels a bit convenient to point the finger at a video game when there's a much bigger elephant in the room, the ever-powerful gun lobby. You know those folks who make actual guns? The ones that leave nasty bullet holes and just a respawn timer? These fellas spend millions lobbying governments to make it easier for folks to get their hands on these deadly weapons. They fight tooth and nail against any form of gun control because, hey, profits over people, right? And let's not forget about mental health. Here in the UK, we understand the importance of looking after our mental well-being, but across the pond, things are a bit different. Getting help for mental health issues can be expensive and difficult to access. So what happens when someone who's already struggling stumbles upon a violent video game? Maybe it becomes an outlet, or maybe it pushes them further down the rabbit hole. Here's the thing, folks. Blaming video games is a bit of a cop-out. It's easier to point the finger at a game than tackle the complex issues of gun violence and mental health. It's a way to avoid uncomfortable conversations and maintain the status quo. But us lot, we're not afraid of a bit of honesty, are we? We can see the whole situation is a tangled mess and video games are just one strand in a much bigger web. So where do we go from here? Blaming Call of Duty is a dead end. It's a distraction from the real issues at hand. We need to address the root causes of gun violence. and that means tackling the gun lobby and making sure everyone has access to proper mental health care. Now, I'm not naive enough to think this will be easy. Gun lobby is a powerful beast, and mental health services are stretched thin. But hey, if we can spend billions developing ever more realistic war simulations, surely we can invest in making our communities safer and a healthier place to live. Here's a few ideas to get the ball rolling. Support common sense gun control measures. Look, I'm not saying we need to ban all guns, but maybe we can make it a bit harder for folks who shouldn't have them to get their hands on them. Invest in mental health services. Make it easier for people to get the help they need, especially young folks who might be struggling. Promote media literacy. Help folks understand the difference between reality and fantasy and how video games portray violence. And finally, let's have a grown conversation about violence in society. It's not just about video games. It's about the glorification of violence in movies, music, and even the news. This has been a messy business, but hopefully it's made you think a bit. Maybe next time someone blames a video game for real-world violence, you can challenge them to think a bit deeper. Remember, video games are just pixels on a screen. The real world is far more complex, and the solutions won't be found in a loot crate. Alright folks, that's all the tea I got for this one. If you enjoyed this rant and want to see more like it, don't forget to whack that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of gaming and beyond. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think video games are to blame for violence? Or is there something bigger at play? Let's keep the conversation going, because a united front is the only way we'll frag out a better future. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, keep on gaming responsibly. See you on the flip side.